Are you ready to talk about IPOs? IPOs?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay, cool. So we just had this SK Hynix IPO, and I want to talk a little bit about that. Great. Oh my goodness, I can't talk today. Market's just moving too fast, and so am I. But SK Hynix IPO, we wanted to talk about how that compares to the SpaceX IPO, and then looking at some of the other biggest IPOs that we've kind of seen over the years, just to kind of talk about what to expect when we look at the small number of cases. There's kind of an open question around, like, especially for options traders, for people who are maybe looking to sell premium with some of those undefined risk strategies, like when it is more comfortable to get into a stock relative to its IPO. So just because, like, options become liquid very quickly these days, but that's not necessarily the best time to get into a name. So here we're going to be looking at comparing SpaceX and SK Hynix with more IPOs to kind of come. There's a lot of volatility, a lot of opportunity, especially because, like I said, option liquidity has been really ramping up very quickly, usually like a couple days after options become available. So that opens up the question of, like, when, especially like vol traders and short premium traders, is a comfortable time to get into these names, especially when it comes to undefined risk short premium positions. So we're going to kind of compare these different IPOs, these two big ones, and then talk about some other major ones in the past to see what kind of trends we can see about really price stabilization is what we're going to be looking at here, and volume stabilization as well. Make sense?
Yep. Sounds good.
Cool. Okay, let's get into it. So SpaceX, man, did it go straight to the moon and then come right back down to earth. But it's been about a month since SpaceX's IPO, and we can see that the price has already gone down to before, like, pre-IPO levels. Volumes have also gone down by over 50%. So that's a very important thing to note, which is that there's a lot of volume, right? Like right after the IPO, especially with like options as well. We see this big, large influx of trading just because of the hype, and then volumes start to taper off a little bit. So that's kind of important to note when it comes to like assessing liquidity as well. Just like trading volumes tend to decline immediately, like after that hype has kind of died down.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's trading at my short strike where I was like, oh, if it will never get down here, but here we are at 125. SpaceX, it's nuts.
Yeah, I thought that the Musk, I don't know, hype would last a little bit longer. But yeah, so SpaceX has been a very interesting name. And we've talked about the liquidity of this one as well, like the option liquidity specifically. I think I got to like Coinbase levels of liquidity within like a day or two of trading, options trading specifically. So it's not that the underlying, or it's not that the options on this underlying are necessarily not tradable from a liquidity perspective, but obviously from a volatility perspective, that's a very different question. And now when we're looking at SK Hynix, it's been 1 week since that IPO. The stock has already gone up in price, although I will say this data is from a couple of days ago. I haven't quite checked on how it's doing right now, but it's actually green today. So we're seeing a bit more sustained growth in this one. So markedly different from the SpaceX IPO, which kind of sold off almost immediately. And then when we get to the next slide, we can see how this trend has, been observed with time across other names. If we're just comparing some of the biggest IPOs that we've ever seen, what we actually notice is that the sell-off from IPO prices tends to continue for, on average, like over a year, and sometimes as far as 2 years after the IPO price, where when we're just looking at the IPO performance after, or I should say the performance of the stock after the IPO, we see like pretty consistent like overall declines in those names for the first 1 to 2 years actually after the IPO date.
It's kind of funny to see GM on there with the IPO in 2010. I mean, I do remember that bit. It had gone into bankruptcy and it came back out. That's a trip.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Actually, I didn't. Yeah, I was surprised to see that. I thought it would have IPO'd like a lot earlier than that. I don't know. It's just such a household name. But yeah, it's just to look at this. And it just also goes to show you like how we just really haven't had a ton of big IPOs recently. But I think, obviously that's about to change. But I think the trend here that, like, when we talk about price stabilization, which is kind of more consistent positive returns, if you want to call it that, that really doesn't start to appear until about 2 years, just looking at the small sample size after the IPO date. And then when we look at volume as well, we can see that trading volume, like I kind of said, is artificially elevated, or just because of the hype around the IPO, and then tends to kind of just drop sharply. It's kind of a consistent trend that we've seen across like many names, especially looking at the biggest IPOs. And so we can see the stabilization also in volume start to appear around the 2 to 3 year mark. And option liquidity and volatility is obviously, like not exactly related to volumes, but here when we're talking about like trading stabilization and when it makes a little bit potentially more sense to get into a name, especially from a short premium perspective, it's actually pretty far out from the IPO. Anywhere from like 2 years is kind of the sweet spot that we've noticed from looking at it from these two dimensions.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. You have your lockup periods, you have your release periods. Like Tim Knight has been talking about this, banging the hammer, just saying like this is just the beginning for SpaceX selling. He thinks it's going to go below 100 because once people have the ability to sell, I think you might see that, which just creates downside pressure. So, but that doesn't mean it's not a good stock long term. Long term,
Potentially, yeah.
could be much higher. So,
yeah. We were coming at this from the perspective of more of like short premium, especially like naked positions.
Yeah.
Which already, there's like a hesitancy with getting in on single company names potentially just because of the volatility that you can see in those single company names that you don't necessarily see in like a diversified sector or market index. So we were kind of approaching it from that perspective of like, kind of extreme volatility, stabilization, and then tail risk. And so just from looking at it, for this handful of companies, it's really kind of further out than I was expecting. It's past the 1 year mark and into like the 2 year mark territory.
Craziness.
Crazy. So, but either way, a lot of stuff going on in the markets right now, a lot of interesting IPOs and some more that are kind of in the pipeline that I'm personally very excited about. But what we kind of see is that there's a lot of trading activity and a lot of stock volatility right after the IPO. We kind of know that. However, we see kind of a whiplash effect within sometimes a couple of days of the IPO actually happening. And that can cause volumes, to go from these very high levels back down and not really stabilize until like sometimes 2 to 3 years out from the IPO date itself. So obviously like option liquidity and volatility and all of that is not directly, has a relationship there. This is just a proxy, but what we can infer from this is that for getting into options trading, especially from a short premium perspective, waiting at least a year, maybe two in some cases, past an IPO date, has generally more stable price trends and more stable volume levels.
Yeah, it just needs some time to mature a little bit, right? And
a little bit.
with that end, the same thing with the volatility. A lot of times, volatility is a little bit higher in those options right after IPO, and then eventually calms down and matures and settles in.
Like a fine cheese.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. So that's why I got into this fine cheese, fine wine Super Bowl setup in SpaceX, where when they opened at 150, I sold a 125 put for about $3,100. And then I bought the long call at the 300 strike. This is all the way out in July of 2028. Is that where it is?
Oh, you're out there? I thought you were in January.
Sorry, January 2028. January 2028. 500 days out. But if you look at the risk profile here, so to this point exactly, when we look at the opportunity here, I collected $345 in the middle. So we're at 125 right now. I'm still okay if we zoom out all the way to where we're about to be, 2 years from now. But the whole point is I sold the put to buy the call, collected a $350 credit. I want to just see where this thing goes. I want to have the unlimited upside if it does rip higher for whatever reason. I think this is one of those stocks that if you do see the rally from 125 to 150 to 175 in short order, you'll probably see implied volatility increase. You'll see call skew get infused in there. So I want just the long call by itself, but still collected a credit in the middle. So it's a high probability trade. I'm happy to take 100 shares here and then turn into a covered call if that's what ends up happening. But you can see the P&L Theo. Like if we get up to 200, this is a $3,000 winner. If you go to 250, it's a $6,000 winner. If you go to 300, it's a $10,000 winner. Obviously, if it happens over a year, we're going to lose extrinsic value. But that's the whole point of the Super Bowl setup, or just this risk reversal where you're buying the call, but you're financing with the short put, and you create this high probability neutral profit potential in the middle. And that's the difference between just buying options and speculating versus utilizing a short premium to really improve your probability of success over the long run.
Indeed.
Indeedy. Super cool. And that's far out, man.
Oh yeah, it is far out, and
It is far out.
man.
It's far out.
It is. It literally is. But I mean that it's the same thing. It's like, do I, because it's not like a strangle, like would I sell a strangle 500 days out? No. But this is a pure like directional trade. So it doesn't necessarily mean as much that I'm so far out, because the short put fully finances the long call, and I still have this neutral range in the middle. It's a loser right now, don't get me wrong, because we are approaching my short put, but at expiration we'll be okay.
Right. And that's a different mechanism, using options to, like, if you have some kind of like directional assumption that's long term, for a stock that has just IPO'd, and then using options to like either reduce your cost basis or just trade that, or increase your probability of profits, or just trade them more strategically, makes sense. We were kind of thinking more from like the short term. When I say short, it's not even short anymore, but the 30 to 45 day income generation perspective, where having, especially like, yeah, control over the position size. But when you go into the undefined risk territory, just like really controlling the risk and trading kind of like usually more established names, is kind of that perspective. So it's two different sides and really interesting ways to get exposure, especially to this. This is super cool.